The one financial mistake every generation repeats. Think about the first time you got a raise, or your first real paycheck that felt like actual money, not just enough to cover gas and lunch. Remember that feeling, that little rush of finally. Now think about 6 months later. Somehow the raise disappeared, not stolen, not lost, just absorbed. A slightly nicer apartment, a few more dinners out, a subscription here, an upgrade there, nothing crazy, nothing you'd call a mistake if someone asked you directly. And yet, here you are, earning more than you ever have in your life and somehow still feeling like you're one bad month away from panic. That's not bad luck, that's not bad math either. That's the one mistake almost every generation makes in almost exactly the same way without ever noticing they're doing it. Here's the thing nobody tells you growing up: we're taught to save, we're taught to budget, we're taught vaguely that debt is bad and investing is good. But nobody teaches us the actual trap. The trap isn't spending money, the trap is what happens emotionally the moment more money enters your life. Because more money doesn't just sit there quietly. It changes what feels normal, it shifts your baseline, and your baseline is the most dangerous number in your entire financial life because you almost never look at it directly. Your parents probably did this. Their parents probably did this too, just with different numbers attached. A bigger house instead of a bigger car, a better school instead of a better phone. The scale changes generation to generation, but the pattern underneath stays exactly the same. We assume the mistake is overspending. It's not really. The real mistake is believing that comfort has to grow at the same speed as income, that if you're earning more you're supposed to feel more, live more, upgrade more, otherwise what was the point of working so hard? And I want to be honest with you here, this isn't about blame. Nobody sits down and decides, I'm going to sabotage my future so I can feel good this weekend. It's slower than that, quieter than that, it just happens one reasonable decision at a time. Let's slow down and actually look at this, because once you see it you can't unsee it. Say you're making $40,000 a year and life feels tight, then you get a raise or a new job and suddenly you're making $50,000. That extra $10,000 feels enormous at first, it feels like breathing room, like the tight chest finally loosens. But within a year, most people report feeling almost exactly the same amount of financial stress they felt before the raise. Not because the money vanished into thin air, but because their sense of normal moved up right alongside it. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. You don't need the term, but you do need the idea. Your brain is built to adjust to new circumstances shockingly fast. A new home, a new relationship, a new salary, all of it feels amazing for a while and then it quietly becomes the new floor. Not the ceiling, the floor, the thing you now need just to feel okay. So when your income rises and your spending rises with it at roughly the same pace, you're not actually building anything. You're just running slightly faster on the same treadmill at a slightly higher elevation. Here's where it gets interesting. This is why two people earning wildly different incomes can feel identically anxious about money. A person making $30,000 a year and a person making $300,000 a year can both lie awake feeling like they're barely keeping up. Not because the math is the same, because the ratio between what they earn and what they've come to expect as normal is the same. Money doesn't buy peace of mind by itself. The gap between your income and your expectations does that, and almost nobody manages that gap on purpose. It just grows invisibly year after year. Think about compound interest for a second because it applies here too, just in reverse. Compound interest is famous because small amounts, left alone, grow into large amounts over time quietly without you doing anything dramatic. Lifestyle creep works the exact same way except it compounds against you. A slightly nicer coffee order, a slightly bigger apartment, a slightly more frequent takeout habit. None of these decisions feel significant in the moment. But stacked over 10, 15, 20 years, they compound into the exact reason someone with a genuinely good income still has almost nothing saved. It's not one mistake, it's the same small mistake repeated so consistently that it starts to look like a pattern, then a personality trait, then, eventually, a life. So what actually shifts this? Not willpower. Willpower is exhausting and unreliable, and honestly, most people who rely on it burn out within a few months. What shifts this is something quieter. It's the moment you stop asking, how do I make more money, and start asking, what is my baseline actually costing me? That single question changes everything because it turns an invisible pattern into something you can actually see and choose. Here's what I mean. Imagine two people getting the exact same raise. Person 1 lets their spending rise to match it almost automatically without really deciding to. Person 2 pauses just for a moment and asks whether this new money needs to change their life at all or whether some of it could just not be spent yet. Person 2 isn't smarter. They're not more disciplined in some superhuman way. They've just built in a moment of awareness that most of us skip entirely because nobody ever told us that moment mattered. And that pause is where freedom actually starts, not in some dramatic all-or-nothing decision to live like a monk, just a small gap between I have more and I need to spend more. This is also where money starts connecting to something deeper than numbers, because what we're really talking about isn't spreadsheets, it's peace of mind. It's the difference between waking up doing math in your head about whether you can cover next month versus waking up and just not having to think about it. That difference isn't created by a specific salary number. It's created by the size of the gap you've protected between what you earn and what you've let yourself need. I'm not going to tell you to cut out coffee or cancel every subscription you own. That advice is tired and honestly it misses the point entirely. What actually matters is much smaller and much more repeatable than that. The next time your income goes up even a little, try this. Before your spending has a chance to quietly follow it upward, decide in advance where a portion of that increase goes. Not all of it, not some extreme, joyless percentage, just enough that your baseline doesn't rise at exactly the same speed as your income. That might mean an emergency fund that finally has 3 months of expenses in it instead of 3 days. That might mean a small amount going into an investment account automatically, so you never even see it sitting in your checking account tempting you. It might mean simply noticing out loud when a new expense is becoming your new normal, instead of letting it slide by unquestioned. None of this requires extreme sacrifice. It requires attention. And attention, it turns out, is the rarest financial skill most people never develop because nobody ever told them it existed. The families who seem to handle money calmly, generation after generation, usually aren't earning dramatically more than everyone else. They've just quietly protected the gap between income and lifestyle on purpose, instead of letting it close automatically. So if you've ever felt confused about why a raise didn't fix the anxiety or why more money never seemed to translate into more calm, I want you to hear this clearly. That's not a personal failure. That's a pattern nearly everyone inherits quietly without ever choosing it. You didn't do anything wrong by falling into it. Almost everyone does at some point because the pull is invisible until someone points it out. But now you've seen it. And once you've seen it, you get to decide slowly, imperfectly, one paycheck at a time, whether your life keeps expanding to swallow every extra dollar or whether you start leaving a little room between what you earn and what you need. You don't have to fix this overnight. You don't have to become a different person by next week. You just have to notice the gap a little more often than you used to. That's really all progress ever is, not some dramatic turning point, just a slightly wider gap than last year protected on purpose, one small decision at a time. Because that one honest look is usually where the pattern finally breaks. If this video made you see your own money habits a little differently, that's exactly why I make these. Subscribe if you want more of this, the kind of money talk that's less about spreadsheets and more about why we actually do what we do with our money. And drop a comment telling me where your last raise really went. I read every single one, and honestly some of the most useful moments in this channel have come straight from those comments. I'll see you in the next one.